Welcome to your weekly Mom Escape, a space where you can kick back, relax, and teleport to the world of me time. So grab your favorite drink and come escape with us.
Hey, Mom Squad. Welcome to your weekly Momscape. I'm Tiffany.
I'm Nikki.
I'm Tramika.
And I'm Marion. Make sure you like, comment, share, subscribe, hit the like button, and follow us so you could be here when we come with our next topic. What are we talking about today, ladies? I think today we're going to be talking about where do we draw the line exactly when it comes from doing for your community or doing for yourself. Let's get into it. I have a confession. Even though I profess not to support the NFL anymore, I did for a very long time. I was a Cowboys fan, and I had the love of my life since I was 7 years old, Deion Sanders. That was going to be my husband. You can tell me nothing back in 96.
Oh my goodness.
A few months ago,
He was hot stuff.
That was my
You
boo.
thought
Listen, I was in elementary school, and that was my boo, okay?
that?
Don't judge me.
I'm gonna have to go back and look at some old pictures because I don't know what y'all see.
He was fine. What you mean? Anyways, as I was saying, a few months ago, he got into some hot water or whatever because, it was a great thing that he came to Jackson State and, gave them new facilities, coached them into greatness, and did a lot of good things for the football program and brought a lot of awareness to HBCUs as a whole. However, after 3 years, he has packed his bag and now he's off to Colorado University. And, the fact that he has left each HBCUs for the PWIs has left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouth. They think that he just used the culture as just a stepping stone to where he really wanted to be, that he was never really about us. There's a lot of things going on. But it got me to thinking as a mom, especially as somebody who wants to go hard for her community, but who's also a mom, where do you draw the line between, what you do for yourself in your household and where you sacrifice to further other people and for other people's comfort? So like I said, for me, it's tough. I remember moving. I live in Cleveland, Ohio now, and moving here. At first, I was going to, live in the suburbs. Now, the one thing I can tell you about the Cleveland area is very segregated. And I wanted to be close to my job, but the suburbs by my job did not have a lot of folks that looked like my child there. And I am very adamant about not sending him somewhere where he is, especially if he's less than the representation of the country. So, we're 13%. And if there's 13% less than 30% of enrollment, Black enrollment in a school, I really don't want to send my child there because I just don't think that's healthy up until a certain age. And
what was the
my
percentage?
kid was 9 at the time. We're 13% of the U.S. population. So my rule of thumb is that I send my son to a school where he's less than 13% of the enrollment.
Gotcha.
Up until a certain age. High school is different from elementary. So, and I got to talking with one of my friends and they're like, you want to help the community and all these things. How are you going to do that if your tax dollars don't go into the community? If we're not putting our resources into the community, how is that going to help? So my son, he does go to a charter school, but we do live in the city. But there's still different things that I have to, navigate and choose between every day, even making that decision. So, what does anybody else have any time where they've had to make a decision like that? Or what are your thoughts? Nikki, have you ever had to think about where you would have to
I'm thinking, and I can't think of anything offhand, but I mean, when it comes, as you were talking about it, I'm thinking just based on the decision that he made, who's to say how he contributes to the community? You know, if he contributed to the community first by coaching, but then he got another opportunity, then who's to say that there's something that comes out of that opportunity that can help him contribute to the community in a different way?
Or even the players.
That's a good point.
I heard he had told, and I may be mistaken, football community, but when he had met with the Colorado team, he had told them, like, look, some of y'all, because they won like one game, and they said some of y'all not even gonna be here. Like, I'm bringing some of my boys from JSU. So that was still benefiting the community, because some of those boys who probably would have, not even had, been able to transfer or whatever other benefits that come with whatever level school that is, he was adding that to it. So it depends on kind of, Nikki, what you said. It really depends on the person and what they think in terms of that part of it. He was still benefiting, but it may have been more so in individual folks.
I want to throw a caveat in there. So I agree with you saying, Nikki. So who's to say that he's not going to contribute to the community in a different way? So one of the things I heard, so I don't know anything about sports. Let's just make that very clear. But my husband drives my truck sometimes, and he leaves on the sport radio. Yes, he leaves on the sport radio. So I'm like learning this stuff, and I come home and I tell him and my son, I be making it seem like I know stuff, but I really don't. I just heard it on the radio. But
That's a smart move.
So one of the things that they were talking about, because I actually seen the YouTube video a while back when he went and talked to the new team or whatever, and he was saying he was going to bring new players. Some of the things that they were talking about on the sports radio was a lot of those players, their bodies are not conditioned for that weather there. So they're not going to be able to go. And I know like one of the major ones, I don't know names and all that, they were saying like he had planned on taking him and then he decided differently because of the weather. And so I just want to throw that caveat in there. Like, yeah, is he really, gonna bring them to a better environment or a better situation just because he's bringing them? So that's something for us to think about as well. So the whole thing is very interesting.
Yeah, and then if we kind of just think about even like environments for ourselves, right? It goes back to even with Nikki. I mean, with Marion was saying as well, is sometimes, of course, because I am very similar with what Marion said regarding the community. I'm very big on diversity of where the children are going. I mean, initially when I was growing up, I grew up most of the time in California, Riverside, Southern Cali, very diverse.
Really? I didn't know that. I didn't know you grew up there.
It was between that and Virginia. So until I was about 9 years old, we moved to Virginia, and we were in a country part of Virginia, to say the least, predominantly white at the time. And I grew up like that initially till, people started moving in because it was near a military base. So it started to become more diverse. But even as an adult, then I went to school in Philly, which was, diverse, and lived there for like 12, 13 years. But when I started having children, my biggest thing was that diversity aspect. I was like, I wanted to make sure that they were in a diverse environment. But then it was this part of figuring out being in a diverse environment, right? But then also, is that diverse environment still going to be equivalent to, for instance, like for education, as those all white environments, So it's like, okay, am I doing this for the community or myself and my children for that? But am I going to miss out on something because I'm not putting them in a, different community that has more opportunities, that has more, that we know for just simple fact, that's the fact of our lives and in living United States of America, where's the trade-off? And we decided we're gonna find it. We're gonna find diversity and a good education system somehow.
Yeah.
So it's definitely, when you kind of think about it that way, is trying to figure out, that middle ground of what it is and such. And, it also depends on where you're coming from as well. So,
Mm-hmm.
And I've been put in a situation where, and I'm no Deion Sanders by all means, right? But I've been put in a situation where people have said things to me because same thing, Tiffany. We were like, we're gonna choose diversity. Literally, the city that we moved to, we moved here because according to articles we read, they were going to be the most diverse city in the surrounding areas of Atlanta by a particular year. And so we moved here. That was one of the factors of us moving here because the diversity is important. But I volunteer and I give a lot like into the schools and the community. And I've literally had people say to me, like, why are my kids not at a predominantly African American school where I can give back into that community versus the diverse schools that I'm like, because I do a lot, like always there, people who know me, PTA this, president, all that type of stuff. And again, no Deion Sanders, money's not involved at all. That was, the case with his situation. But that same question has been presented to me, like, why would you leave this support into this when we more need you over here? And I feel like that was kind of the underlying thing too with the situation from what I know. And I do feel like our community needs us, and I try to give back as much as I can, but I am pouring into more where my kids attend school. So it's just I don't know. So in the case or the question of community versus self, I don't think I chose either one. I chose family, if that makes sense. So that's kind of my thought process on how it reflects in my own personal life.
And but the people who say that though, are they doing it? You know what I'm saying? The ones who want to make all that noise, but are you really doing something all about the community? Like, come on.
Yeah.
What did it show your receipts?
But it can go even further, like to even into family or friend groups as well. Where, like, how much do you sacrifice? I know our families come first and all of that, but I was telling a close friend recently about how there's a task that I do for one of my elders, and it's not necessarily something that I like to do, but every time she asks me to do it, I'm not going to say no. And my friend is
you
just
so
like,
kind.
no,
Bless
you
your
don't like it,
heart.
don't do it. I feel like that's how my family is. That's how we raise. Like, it costs me nothing to do it. And this is my elder, somebody who changed my diaper. This is somebody who I know loves me. And and you can't do it themselves because they're older. It costs me nothing. Why wouldn't I? Because I don't like to. Like, so but my friend was just like, yeah, like, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
That's funny.
I don't know, like, but that's when it comes to friends and people. I mean, when it comes to family and people who you call friend and all that, like, I believe that playing that role involves a bit of sacrifice. And I believe being a Black person in America calls for a little bit of sacrifice, but I am learning that not everybody feels that way, and everybody has levels of sacrifice they're willing to offer.
So. Nikki, what are your thoughts on our self versus community?
What just came to mind? One question that came to mind was, what is the community doing for you? Or what is the community doing for me or for us? Like, why is there so much responsibility and expectation? Because
that's good.
Because obviously, if we're seeking these things in other places, what we need is not being supported by the community. And as y'all were talking, I'm thinking in my mind how, because I've noticed when I'm in different classes or things like that, I find that I'm usually the only or one of very few of my kind in the group. And just recently, I had an experience of, this is based on coaching, right? There's one community that I could coach with, but then I'm attracted to this other culture.
Girl, you talking.
I'm attracted, and I'm like, I'm attracted, and I want to go, but it's just like, okay, I'm tired of being the only Black person in the room. So that's one reason. But then I was really asking myself, is it wrong for me to give my money over here when I can give my money here to support, someone in my own culture? But it just looks like the benefits, like not even the benefits.
So Nikki, can I ask a quick question? Because I'm getting confused which group is which group. So when you refer to, you want to be more attracted to the group that is not the community group, and then
they're other culture. The lady who runs it she's White.
Okay.
And so it's like all of them. And I've been looking, I'm like, are there any Black people in there? And I have not seen one. I have not seen one. But the energy is just different. The energy is just different. It's softer. It's more like, I'm more free spirit, that kind of thing. And then everything in this other community is really aggressive. And that kind of energy just doesn't work best for me. That's the situation that I was thinking of. And I mean, I just observed over time. The things that I like to learn, I'm usually in community. I'm usually like one of very few of Black people in the group.
But those are some nuggets that you're putting out, because now it's bringing me back to propose the question or put the question on the table. Even referring back to the original thing with the Deion Sanders is, are we wrong to choose what's best for us? And so whether, there was so much talk about whether he took it for the money, he got money, he don't need the money, why he leave the kids at the HBCU and go to the PWI. There was so much talk about that. But at the end of the day, Deion Sanders has to do what's best for him and his family. And so if that looks different than what culture is telling us or society is telling us that we should do, are we wrong? So that's the question that I'm kind of putting out on the table. Like, does that make us wrong? And then if it does, like if somebody says yes, wrong by whose standards? Like, what is, so I don't know. You said some stuff there. So I love it.
So I won't say that somebody is wrong, because you have to do you have to do things according to your own value system. But the thing that came to mind as I was, going through the whole story was, if we don't put the mission first, we're never going to progress as a unit. But there's a lot of people who don't care to move as a unit, who don't want to be in this. They're only worried about themselves and their legacy. And that's fine. I see things differently. Personally, I would love to see, or I would love to be a part of, because to be honest, I don't think it's going to happen in my lifetime. But I would love to bring my brick and build towards this thing that frees us as a whole community from oppression. But we're not going to do it. Like, our mindset today in 2022 is not the same as it was back. There could never be a Selma bus boycott today. The things that they had to sacrifice to not ride the bus, the miles they had to walk, the gas that they, that the few of them had cars, had to, spend money on, to give each other rides back and forth and all that, to make that progress. Like, nobody in 2022, myself included, sometimes I'm ashamed, sometimes it is what it is. Nobody's willing to make that kind of sacrifice. And so that's really what it is. And so I wonder if our community will always be where it is now and will never progress further, because nobody is willing to make a sacrifice on behalf of that.
Well, maybe we
and
make
if that's
sacrifices
okay with you,
in other
no,
ways, though. Well, maybe we make sacrifices.
No, and I'm not saying that
I gotta
bring you
to the. You gotta come into the. We're in 2023 now. You gotta come into the new year.
I said 2022, 2023. It takes me about 3 months to get the new year.
Yeah, but I was gonna say like maybe the sacrifice just looks different though.
There's different sacrifices, but it's also levels or amount of sacrifice. And if we're only going to allow ourselves to make surface sacrifices, and we're never going to dig deep on whatever, because the way I'm seeing when you say different sacrifices, okay, I'm seeing categories, but there's also levels. And if you're only going to be at a surface level and you're never going to go deep with it, it's not going to make much of a change.
Well, then,
and everybody, I feel like we always have limits. I'm sorry.
Right. Marion for president.
What'd you say, Nikki? Marion
for president.
No, right.
But
never would I ever.
I do agree with me. I think it is different from 100 years ago, right? If we do 1922, it's totally different, and it seems like, it's when there's social justice, and that's when we're coming together, opposed to just our everyday lives. As we know, there's other communities out here that stick together, build together every day. They don't need to have a social justice reform. They don't need to have something horrible to happen to their people to live that kind of lifestyle, period. Now, granted, that could be a whole other conversation, right? That we can dig into why our community operates the way they do. And it's, X, Y, and Z. And it's just more figuring out, though, it comes, I feel like, to me, again, those that we've all kind of said it, those who are saying, no, but what are you doing for your community? If you want to bring that up, and then what really can we do where it's still for ourselves and the community, right? And it's going to be, it depends what it's like. Shamika was saying, she was like, it was technically still for the community. It may not be an all Black community, but I'm still out here at the PTA. I'm still out here. I saw Shamika at the hot outside running the whole little ticket.
Yes, girl.
Okay, so she's still about the community, and it was still, it was predominantly our community still out there representing and attending this. So it's not. I think Mary, maybe you said it's not what maybe someone else views it as. So to someone else, that maybe that's not sufficient. But in someone else's lives, that's awesome that you're doing that, because I'm not out here because I was walking around my little tail eating snow cones and, so it's just a matter, I think, of perspective,
and I think that we all have a different level of purpose for the bigger picture, right? And so when I say that it looks different, maybe I don't have the capacity, or I can't do what somebody else would do, but I'm doing it in my way. And then the question too is, who's the judge to say if it's surface level or not? So that's one thing. And then the other thing, when I say it just looks different, so maybe I'm putting my kid into a different type of school environment, diversity, or a better education, or whatever that looks like, so that I can learn the game, one, and so that my kid can even be able to compete to get into a seat to be able to make changes. So that sacrifice, that level of sacrifice, or that particular sacrifice just looks different. No, I'm not doing a boycott. No, I'm not walking. But I'm sacrificing not being with my people by putting my kid in this school, and because I want them to have a better opportunity to be able to get into the seat where they can actually make changes. And so that's what I mean by like it is different, not like different levels or categories or anything like that. It just looks different than it would have looked 100 years ago. So that, that's kind of what I meant by that, because I do feel like, for example, us putting our kids in schools that have been predominantly Caucasian or white or whatever you want to call it, we're putting them, we felt like as parents, we were putting them in better situations to be able to compete, have those resources, things of that nature. But then now I see things that are missing and gaps because they didn't grow up in a predominantly African-American community or school. And so those are sacrifices that are actually, and I'm not saying towards the community, but those are sacrifices that we've made as a family with our own children. And so I just feel like it looks different. But even in that, my question I'm walking away with is, who's judging? Who's saying it's enough or not enough? That's a question that I'm proposing. Like, who's judging that?
You said
what do you mean by that?
Time is the only. Because and I don't think anybody can judge one individual one person, but whether we as a whole are doing enough, time will show.
Yeah, I agree with that.
That's true.
And I feel like everybody needs to do something. Like, I totally agree with that. Everybody needs to do something. The distance that they decide to run with that, and I guess when you talk about categories and level, the deeper they decide to go, I guess that's on the individual. But I feel like if we're all walking in purpose, at some point we meet the common goal. The problem is we don't have a lot of people who are always walking in purpose or who even know their purpose. And that's why people like Nikki come into play. And so it kind of helps us so that we can build the bigger picture. So I definitely do agree with what you're saying as far as all of us doing our part. But sometimes that, that's even another thing that we can talk about, a whole nother topic. What if you don't know your part? Like, what does that look like? So, it's so much to it. It's so much.
Exactly. And the last thing I'll add is that speaking of the purpose thing, from my human design background, there are 3 levels. So there are 3 levels of where you make impact, where you make an impact. And that's individual, tribal, which is more about family and community, and then there's collective, like the big picture, society. So sometimes you can judge because I am more impactful on an individual level. And then I have some family members that be like, oh, you don't care about family. And I'm like, no, it's not that I don't care about family, but I don't have that much tribal energy. You know what I'm saying? Ooh. But I like to do more individual, like, because I feel like sometimes the work you do inward and the work you do individually impacts in a different way. So you do have to know more about who you are and how you serve, who you serve, and that's an individual thing. And everybody doesn't know that about everybody else. So really, everybody cannot stand in the place of judgment of what's right for someone else.
We're hiring you to teach the world because I never knew any of that. And that was really good. So we're hiring you to teach everybody. So, you got to know your level of impact, sis. That's how we're going to start. That's the name of the class. Know your level of impact. Know your level of impact. Yes.
What is it? And Nikki, is it human design, right? Mm-hmm. Of your human design.
Yeah.
Yes. I love it. So I want to ask a question to all of y'all. What would you have done? So in Deion Sanders' case, of course, we don't have all the context, right? Because that's another thing. A lot of people will say a lot of stuff and they don't even have the whole picture. So in Deion Sanders' case, just openly, honestly, no wrong answers, right? Because we can't sit in a place of judgment. And how much was it, Marion, that they offered him at Colorado? Because I think that is a factor. The money is somewhat a factor.
Oh, child, I don't remember. It was a few million, I believe.
It was millions, yeah.
I think it was a few million, but I can't remember. Yeah.
Okay, let's just say 3 million.
Something
so
like
you're
that,
at.
It was on the lower.
Oh, here it is. Oh, no. It's more than that. Over 5 years, 29.5.
Oh, wow. I never heard that.
Hold on, let me make sure I'm reading this correctly.
I thought it was something like 3 million or something.
So this is
I thought it was on the lower side, lower million.
Yeah, it says he earned reported $300,000 per season at Jackson State, and he has and a compensation package totaling 29.5 over 5 years before bonuses and incentives.
Okay, so with that being said, what y'all would have did? So you had this HBCU and you helping your community. I kind of feel like I know the answers for everybody, but I want to hear you say it out loud. What would you have done?
Yeah, what have you done and why?
That's a good point. What would you have done and why?
Look, I'll go first. I would have went right on over to Colorado State.
I knew you was gonna say that.
And I would have kind of did what he did. Was like, well, look, I'm gonna bring a few of y'all. I'm gonna bring y'all on up. Whoever want to come with a body,
I love it.
Ready? You can go put on a jacket. Those what is it? X. What's that sports brand that's got the big X? Y'all know, whatever. I can't remember. You better go layer that up then if you want to come over here. But I would have rolled out. And the reason being, unfortunately, is I'm thinking of, because if 300,000, now granted, yeah, he is already rich, but again, we don't know what his purpose is. Maybe he wants to build a legacy for his kids. Maybe all that money he made in the football, he had lost all that money because he made bad investments or bad deals. We don't really know his financial situation. And that may have been like, I can do this for him. Maybe he wants to open up his own football stadium. You know what I'm saying? Like for me, I would have been bounced and would have brought whoever I could with me and maybe wrote a few letters of encouraging emails. Who knows? But hello, Colorado, mittens and hat on.
That is hilarious. Oh my God. I'm going to stop laughing. But okay. I love it. I knew you was going. I knew you was taking the money and running.
Oh, Nikki, which one would you have done?
I mean, given I don't know situations, I really don't know. I would think I would probably have gone because, I mean.
No, what would you have done? Not him. What would you do if that was you?
But it would still depend. It would still depend on a variety of circumstances. So I don't know the circumstances. I would think I would have gone. And why? Because. Why? I mean, just. Yes, I would have gone.
That's hilarious.
I mean, but not just for the money. You know what I'm saying? It would depend on the opportunity, the environment. So if everything else lined up, like they're good people, the opportunities that I want are going to be there, and all of that, yes, I would go.
So I'll piggyback off of you because my thing is the same, like alignment. And so if everything was lined up, and then I think that, and not, to get spiritual, I think that we do have to hear from God to like say, okay, well, me in particular, is this the move to make? Is my time up here? Have I done the most I can? Is it time to shift somebody else into this position? So all of those things would have been planned for me, and a lot of factors would have been considered, but just surface level, or the main fact is we are here to progress. Like we're here to progress. We're here to be successful in whatever success looks like for us. And we're not here to stay at a certain level. Like for me, let me just say me, I'm always looking to grow. I'm always looking for not necessarily the next opportunity, but the best opportunity that's going to present to me and then the people connected to me. And so for me, considering the information that I have, I would have definitely been torn. I think that I would have been tore up with emotions because they were, the video I watched, they didn't seem so sad. Like they kind of, at least they didn't put in a video, they kind of understood his choice. So I would have went, but I would have emotionally been torn up about it. And that would have been my give back. Like, okay, what can I do? Like bringing people on, maybe starting a scholarship fund. Like I would have gave back in those particular ways.
Mm-hmm.
Can I say one thing before Marion goes? Whether he stayed or he goes, he went.
Right.
Whether he stayed, but since he went, they still have the opportunity to be great.
You're absolutely right. You are absolutely right.
And that's their choice. They're responsible.
Mm-hmm.
That's good. Okay, Marion, what you got for us, girl?
I think I know what you're going to say, too.
The viewers don't know what you're going to say.
Okay, well, let me put some caveats out there, too. Because, Tramika, you brought up something that I wanted to say as well. I don't question anybody when they say they heard from God. And that's what he said. He said he heard from God to go to Jackson State, and he said he heard from God to leave. I don't question anybody when they say they could just be imposing their own will and just saying that, but who am I? I'm not God, and I don't hear what goes on between him and God. So I don't ever question that, first of all. Second of all, I actually dated a collegiate coach who for a time coached at an HBCU, a much smaller HBCU, but an HBCU nonetheless. And I do know that administratively, everything is not always what it's cracked up to be, even though I did go to PWI with a lot of Black history in it, but a PWI nonetheless. But from what I've heard from students and just testimonies from, people who wanted to go, but they didn't have, the school they wanted to go to didn't have all their ducks in a row, parents, faculty, what have you. Our HBCUs need a lot of refinement when it comes to administrative things. And it's not always hard to be there. The guy that I was dating, he couldn't wait to leave where he was at. So there's that too. So, because there were some other videos that I watched with Deion, and it sounded like him and the administrative might not have exactly been on the same page. Maybe some things that he wanted to accomplish, because of that, he was not able to accomplish. So, I want to put all that out there as well. But looking at the surface and what was presented, there is another coach, and sorry, I cannot remember his name, at another HBCU, who said, I am only working for HBCUs. That would be me. Maybe. I can't remember no names. My ADHD right now is kicking in. But yeah, the guy said he's only working for HBCUs, and that's where I would be. If I would have left Jackson State, it would have been for another HBCU. Because I think what a lot of us as fans and the culture or what have you saw him was bringing in more eyes on football, bringing in and kind of creating a domino effect to bringing in more high-level players, at bringing in more high-level prospects, those people who they're waiting to graduate high school to see where they're going, bringing them into HBCUs, but also shining the light on the top star players that are at HBCUs that don't get no shine for the NFL draft and all that. So I would have, not saying I would have stayed there, because Deion talking about, I never said there's gonna be a tombstone with my name on it at JSU. Like, we know that, but at the same time, 3 years is disappointing. And so I would have stayed longer, and when I did leave, it would have been for HBCU with the thought process. The mission would not have just been for me, because I know my purpose when it happened. When it comes down to it, the mission is never just the task at hand. It would not just be coaching football. It is creating something bigger for the whole community. So I would want to be building up football programs and whatever other programs that can piggyback off that success within the realm of HBCUs. So that's just me.
No, we appreciate it.
I love it. Yeah, I love it.
I love views.
And I mean, I think you give it a whole different perspective. My daughter goes to HBCU. For her, of course, she's not coaching, but that was a non-negotiable. Like, she was not willing to go to a PWI, and so I get having the heart for it. I do get all the things that he did. I think it was amazing, like you said, shining the light, because you normally don't have those from HBCUs going to the NFL draft. So I do get all the major things that he did, and if he had done it longer, that would have been amazing as well. But he decided to go elsewhere. So we'll see as time progresses what becomes of it. And maybe he may give back in a way that we didn't even think that he was going to do. So I'm curious to see how it all plays out.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah. Time is the judge. Time is the judge.
Yes, you said that. Time is the judge. So we're going to see.
So are we moving into our drop off, pickup, takeaway?
Yes.
So right. So relating to the subject, or anything else that you can think of, what's your takeaway? Are you dropping something off, or are you picking something up? What have you picked up from this topic, and what's your takeaway?
I would say I don't think we have any drop-offs. Nothing that's I would feel for myself drop off. I think the takeaway is just I'm like, hey, what was self for me, but I think it's being more intentional with the community as well, of what I can give back to the community specific because we are, our family is definitely pro-diverse, pro-community, but it's like, well, what can I do to be more intentional with what I can do, but that is still beneficial for myself, my family, those that are close or such. So that's kind of and not being, I don't want to use the word ashamed, but not being felt guilty or ashamed because other people think it's not enough for the community. But I think I could probably do just a little bit more.
Yeah, I think for me, my drop off and pick up. So I'm doing both today. What I'm going to leave here and drop off in this episode is that there's these huge eyes that are just on the whole world and just sitting up there in judgment, because I did feel a little guilt at times about not having my kids at a predominantly African American school. I know that me and my husband decided, in conversations with the S, what we thought would be best for them. I do see in some spaces in their life, with not going there, where there's some, I won't say things missing, but it's just a little different. But at the end of the day, as a parent, I did what was best, or we did what was best for our children. And so just having this connotation of like these big eyes that's just over us watching, like, the question I presented, who's judging? And so I'm dropping that off today. I'm going to do what's best for us. And what I am actually picking up and taking away is the levels of the purpose. That was good. Okay. So the whole, you said individual, tribal, and collective. I thought that was amazing. And so I think do you think that you progress through them, or are you just at one level and you just stay there and that's your purpose?
No, we have a mixture. We usually have a mixture of all of them, but you may have more of one.
Gotcha. Okay, so I'm gonna think about that. But that's me. That's what I'm dropping off and picking up today.
So I'm gonna go before Mary goes. I'm going to drop off. Yes. I'm going to drop off the community.
That's because Nikki is an individual, okay? You understand.
I love it though. I love it.
No, let me tell you why. Because as we were talking about it, I was thinking about. So I love.
Look at Marion's face.
How do I say this? So here's the thing. When we were talking about it, I was thinking about Deion Sanders' age. I was thinking about stress. And so when Marion shared the thing about the whole administrative thing, that added to that. And I'm thinking about what you came to do. In one area, he's more like a mentor, and you have to really reel them in because you're trying to mold them. Not to say that he wouldn't have that same responsibility at the other school, but more so at the other school, it's about football. It's about football. So I'm just going to say that sometimes it's hard you can want to give somebody something, but if they're not ready to receive it, you can't force it. You can't force it on them. So, but
when I'm getting bold out here like you in these streets, forget that came. No,
I love them, but you have to give in the way that you can. In the way that you're more purpose to do it. Can't help everybody. You're only one person. So, but what I am picking up though is Marion's passion for the community. I love it.
Yes.
I love it. And it makes me think more about how I can give and how I can serve.
That's great. I love it.
Marion, look, you got two people. You about to convert us. He's doing that Selma boycott with you, okay?
That is hilarious.
Look, I said myself included when it came to the whole Selma thing. Like in 2023, yeah, I wouldn't have been if we had to do that right now, I mean, granted, we all got cars, but like if we had to do something to that level, it would be very hard. Don't get it twisted. I'm not Sojourner Truth out here. But
we'll have to get our bail money
try,
together because Mary ain't gonna be out there. She gonna be out there, so we gotta get the bail money together because you gonna be out there, honey.
I do protest. Yes, I do protest. But yeah, I don't know what it is, if it's it's a simultaneous pickup and drop off, I guess. Cause that whole thing, what you said, Tramika, about, what it looks like in a different way. Because, and this is not you personally, because I know you personally, but the thought process is for the general population of Black people who send their kids off to these highfalutin white schools, is that they do it and don't look back and don't care, and that the work is not being done in the house. That is the stereotype. That is the thought process. And clearly, from the things that you said and the things that I know about how your daughter ended up at HBCU, she purposed to do that. You said she wouldn't look at anything else. And so even though she had that experience, she still has a love for who she is, for her own identity and those who look like her. And, that comes from who she was raised by. It had to be, And so, so I'm dropping off the immediate thought that, people who, or that first of all, that is a light decision, that, oh, I got the money, why not just send, I'm gonna live here and I'm just gonna send my kid there. And it's just never another thought. But also that it is I'm picking up the fact that it is a sacrifice as well. And hopefully time will be the judge, and not just your 3 kids, but other kids who are in the same situation, that it does in the end benefit the whole. So
I love that.
I hope that all makes sense.
It does. I love it.
It does.
Okay. So that is all we have for today, y'all. Again, remember to like, share, comment, subscribe. If you're watching us on YouTube, if you are listening to us on your favorite podcast app, make sure that you follow us so that you know when we upload again, and leave us a comment, a review, however the system is for the app that you are using. Again, so we appreciate y'all. We'll see y'all next time, next week. See y'all. Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.